The reason we had Rachel Zegler on the docket is she's an asshole.
This is someone who is as entitled as, I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. You didn't write it, you didn't direct it. You have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White. Right. You should shut up and do the job.
This is truly she has to go. I'm sorry, Disney. She has to go.
But I think the movie bombed because it's bad. Those CGI little people.
I came back, the losses were around $4 billion.
Now, one thing that is already universally known at this point by the general public is the fact that Disney is in full-on damage control mode.
Once upon a time, Disney's 1937 Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs reigned as a magical cornerstone of animated film history. Children and adults alike fell for its charm, its music, and the enchanting story of an innocent princess, her singing animal friends, and a band of loyal dwarfs. Decades later, news of a bold live-action remake initially sent excited tremors through fans who wondered how modern technology and fresh perspectives might elevate a cherished classic. Little did anyone suspect that this remake would spark a firestorm fueled by cast interviews and social media uproar, turning a story about hope and kindness into one of the biggest controversies Hollywood had seen in years.
I know this point has been made, but this truly is the worst casting maybe in the history of the film industry. Has there been a film with worse casting than this? And I don't just mean the Snow White actress. Obviously she's terrible, but both of them.
But these guys at Disney, they're not that bright, they're not that smart, and we see that because they can't come up with any new IP. Why not write some new movies? You guys sit around, you have billions of dollars, they keep going back and rewriting the classic.
One thing about Rachel Zegler is that we know that she's not helping at all one bit.
Now for Disney, as you probably remember, all of this publicity, the Zegler interviews, the Daily Mail leak, people weren't supposed to see and understand just how unwatchable the new Snow White was going to be. It was supposed to be, kind of a surprise, but now there was no hiding.
All it took was a few comments to flip anticipation into dread. Rachel Zegler, the actress chosen to don the iconic Snow White outfit, made remarks that painted the original film as ancient, lacking relevance, and weird. Outrage exploded within hours. Fans who'd grown up cherishing the warmth and innocence of Disney's first princess found themselves wondering why the star of the new version seemed so dismissive of the tale that launched Disney's golden age. Like a storybook villain who never saw the revolt coming, the House of Mouse suddenly had a major predicament on its hands, but that was only the beginning.
Disney is having its own problems. They're finally releasing the latest adaptation of Snow White, but they're scaling back the Hollywood premiere of the film. Kinsey, why is that?
Because Rachel Zegler is a PR nightmare.
A lot of people don't like her. A lot of people don't like her either. She's got a big mouth. She talked trash about the original.
I think it's fair to say that no one can stand the star of this movie.
One of the reasons why Rachel Zegler sticks around is she's got a beautiful voice and she has some talent. So I think that certainly helps her because she's a PR nightmare. I don't know how anyone would hire her.
Controversies in Hollywood are hardly rare, but when prominent figures chime in, the buzz can grow into a roar. Megyn Kelly, a seasoned broadcaster never shy about speaking her mind, stepped into the ring and delivered a fierce critique of the new Snow White star's attitude. Kelly's remarks cut deeply, claiming Rachel's commentary disrespected the movie that effectively built the Disney brand. Why, viewers wondered, would any actor take on such an iconic role only to deride it publicly? Megyn Kelly's stance struck a chord, especially among fans who perceived Rachel's comments as self-important or condescending.
You guys, Disney's new live-action remake of Snow White debuted this weekend, and it's an even bigger dud than anticipated.
Who hates when I win? The winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And everything I do.
Snow White, after all, wasn't just another cartoon. It was the film that changed the face of animation. It symbolized Walt Disney's daring spirit and creativity at a time when feature-length animated films were a gamble. Many felt that if anyone had the right to criticize or modernize the character, it certainly wasn't an actress who still needed to prove her longevity in Hollywood. Kelly's words offered a voice to Disney aficionados who felt let down. fanning the flames of dissatisfaction and setting the stage for an even louder backlash. Soon, hashtags like #sign, Not My Snow White began trending across Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. The tension thickened with each new interview clip, where Rachel Zegler appeared to double down on her personal take, calling out perceived flaws in the 1937 film. Some found her frankness refreshing, others found it infuriating. Love or hate her comments, they certainly generated headlines, and in the swirling world of internet culture, headlines can make or break a production. Here's the tricky part. In an era when fan engagement can boost a movie's success or doom it before the first showing, Disney's attempt to maintain peace was like trying to bail water out of a sinking ship with a paper cup. The criticisms expanded beyond Rachel's remarks, pulling in every aspect of the remake, ranging from the newly conceptualized dwarfs to rumored script changes. Nothing seemed immune to scrutiny, and the public's readiness to call out what they perceived as a betrayal of the classic story only hardened. The question was no longer if the movie could bounce back from negative press, but whether it was too late to salvage public goodwill. By the time official trailers and promotional images appeared, the controversy had reached boiling point. Disney tried to steer conversations toward the film's visual splendor, the updated storyline, and the star power on board. At press events, Rachel Zegler suddenly switched to praising the bravery and importance of the classic Snow White. She mentioned how her character was still the same innocent princess, just reimagined with a modern spin. Nevertheless, these attempts at backtracking often came across as forced, leaving viewers and insiders alike suspicious that the actress was only playing nice because of the public relations fallout. Oddly enough, the dwarfs in this story played a surprisingly large role in the outrage. Ever since Disney announced the remake, fans wondered how the 7 dwarfs, sleepy, grumpy, sneezy, bashful, Doc, happy, and dopey, would be portrayed. Would it be live action, CGI, a fusion of both? When production images leaked of magical creatures instead of the original dwarfs, another wave of fury erupted. Many in the little person community questioned why Disney was removing a rare set of iconic roles that could have provided opportunities for talented performers. Meanwhile, fans lamented the loss of the dwarfs they had adored for generations. Peter Dinklage, a respected actor in that community, had already spoken out about potential stereotypes. Disney then attempted to pivot, promising a thoughtful approach, but combined with Rachel's negative statements, the dwarfs debate became yet another factor that complicated the film's public image. Some felt the changes were progressive, others felt they were disrespectful to the tradition of the story and to the actors who rely on such roles for on-screen representation. Suddenly, the film was less about fairy tale magic and more about whether Disney had sacrificed iconic, timeless characters in a misguided effort to appear more modern. One question overshadowed the production spectacle. How do you handle the evil queen's envy when the audiences aren't convinced that Snow White is the fairer one? Gal Gadot, renowned for her portrayal of Wonder Woman, was cast as the evil queen. Charismatic, glamorous, and physically striking, Gadot seemed an unusual match to be jealous of Rachel Zegler's Snow White. Memes and sardonic tweets flourished, suggesting that in any real-world scenario, Snow White would be envious of a regal queen played by an international superstar. While some viewers praised Gadot's performance in early promos, critics insisted the story's central conflict lost believability. After all, the original fairy tale hinged on the queen's chilling obsession with outdoing Snow White's charm and beauty. If fans already doubted the new lead's commitment to the role, the mismatch in appearances only magnified cynicism. The film found itself under mounting pressure to justify its casting choices in ways that extended far beyond the typical Hollywood marketing fluff. For a film reliant on visual illusions and classic fantasy elements, the believability factor was dangerously close to zero. As preview screenings trickled out and actual release dates arrived, the cold reality of box office numbers struck like lightning. Despite Disney's brand power and an avalanche of advertising, many audiences simply stayed home. Disgruntled longtime fans felt no urgency to see a remake that had seemingly disrespected its classic foundation. Families that might have flocked to a fresh take on Snow White months earlier were now hesitant, if not outright repelled by the negative buzz. Stories began circulating about tepid pre-sales, half-empty theaters, and a global market underwhelmed by early reviews. The House of Mouse faced the possibility that despite a considerable production and marketing budget, the film's revenue might not cover the massive costs. Analysts speculated that the meltdown was more than just a one-off flop. It hinted at deeper issues with Disney's approach to remakes. For a studio that once turned everything it touched into box office gold, this misfire was a wake-up call that brand loyalty had limits, especially when fans felt slighted. Beyond the business implications, this saga highlights the perils of hubris. Hollywood loves a good reinvention, but success typically demands respect for source material, understanding of a dedicated fandom, and humility from the people entrusted to carry on a legacy. Whether Rachel Zegler's remarks were genuine opinions or offhand missteps doesn't matter in the court of public sentiment. Perception becomes reality, and once negative buzz spreads, it's nearly impossible to pull it back. A star's credibility can vanish overnight if they seem dismissive of beloved icons. After all the dust settles, the remake's legacy may read like a cautionary tale in an industry built on illusions. It's a stark reminder that nostalgia can be both an asset and a burden. A well-known story carries the promise of built-in fans, but also the weight of heightened expectations. What started as a simple plan to revive a timeless classic became a maelstrom of online debates, corporate damage control, and financial setbacks. In the end, Megyn Kelly's fiery takedowns were merely the tip of the iceberg, reflecting the broader sentiment of millions who felt their beloved princess was mishandled. Of course, Disney will soldier on. Its brand remains a juggernaut in entertainment. Rachel Zegler may continue scoring roles if studios are willing to overlook the controversies, and the audience, they'll keep watching, keep tweeting, and keep voicing their opinions, sometimes gently, sometimes harshly. Perhaps the moral of this story is that fairy tale magic demands more than just special effects and an A-list cast. It requires genuine respect for the legacy, empathy toward the fans, and an awareness that in showbiz, a misstep off-screen can be as destructive as any wicked queen's curse. So for anyone eyeing the next big remake, take heed. A centuries-old fairy tale still holds one final warning. Never underestimate the power of enchanted nostalgia, or you might find yourself biting into a very toxic apple indeed.